email newsletter, which is MVUUC News. Please write your contact information on the blue information card that is found in the pocket of each chair. There is a box on the greeting table where you can deposit this card after the service. So let's take a moment and greet our neighbors.
I know, I was love it when it has no effect. Literally zero effect.
Oh, it doesn't?
Well, sometimes it's funny because sometimes you hit it, people will stop, and then other times.
And then they don't, yeah. I love the energy in this room. This is great. I always hate interrupting all these wonderful conversations, but we're going to get going. So the chalice will be lit today by Bob Price. As he says, my huckleberry. Please join me in reading these words written by Andrea Hawkins Camper, provided for the lighting of the chalice. Should be up on the screen. We gather now into this space, this time when the wheel turns and the veil shatters. Gather we now to remember, to grieve, to prophesy, to complete our harvests before the long dark comes. Gather we now to tell the old stories and sing the old songs, to be as we have always been, the voice of our people eternal. Gather we now to celebrate that which was, that which is, and that which will be. Gather we now as we have always done, united by story and bound by love. And now Robin Perry will read a children's story for Halloween.
Hello. Okay, cool. So I am going to be reading The Witch Who Was Frightened of Halloween. And this is from a website called Story Nori. I'm going to use this table. Okay. So as every kid knows, Halloween is both spooky and sweet. It's spooky because there are witches and wizards about. I personally think that's kind of cool as opposed to spooky. But it's also sweet because children go in search of treats. This story is about a little girl who is a witch, and it's fair to say that it's more sweet than spooky. Her name is Katie, and her schoolmates think she is rather odd and don't really believe that she can do magic. She's afraid of Halloween because she thinks they will tease her more than usual, but in fact, she has quite a few useful tricks and treats up her sleeve. Also, side note, this is British, so there's some terminology that's a little different, but okay. So once upon a time, there was a girl called Katie. Katie was 7 years old, and she lived in a nice house with her mom and a dog called Muffin. And it was all quite normal, really, except for one thing. They were all witches. Well, except for Muffin, who was a D-witch, which is a dog who casts spells. Anyway, being a witch wasn't so bad. Mom could just twitch her nose and all her cleaning would get done. Dad would wave his stick and the lawn would cut itself. Muffin would click his paws and a few dog treats would tumble out of the sky. They'd even taught Katie some magic. She knew how to make her homework do itself, and her room got tidy just by twitching her ear. But there was just one thing Katie really didn't like: Halloween. Once a year, when the leaves were falling off the trees and the nights were getting longer, all the children in her school and along her street would get terribly excited about Halloween. They made costumes of horrible-looking witches with long, pointy noses and spots and nasty black hats and broomsticks. And Katie said in school, Witches aren't like that, really. My mom looks quite nice. And all the other girls fell about laughing. Katie thinks she's a witch, they laughed. She's ugly and horrible, just like a witch. And when Katie went home that day, she was really upset. She cried and cried and cried. And when her mom asked her what the matter was, she said everyone hates witches, and they especially hate them on Halloween. And her mom tried to explain that although some people don't like witches, it was also quite useful sometimes, like when the washing up got done all by itself. I don't ever want to have anything to do with witchcraft ever again, said Katie angrily. But on Halloween night, all the girls from her school were organizing a trick-or-treat tour of the street. And Katie didn't want to go because she decided she didn't want to have anything to do with witchcraft. Never, never, never. But her mom said she had to, because a witch can hardly stay in on Halloween. And she whispered something in Katie's ear. Do you know what it was? Well, I'll tell you in a minute. Anyway, Katie went to join the other girls, and some of them started laughing at her. Katie doesn't have to dress up because she's already a witch, they laughed. And Katie felt cross and embarrassed, but she decided to say nothing. At the first house, they got a load of sherbet lemons. At the second, a jumbo pack of sweeties. At the third, loads and loads of crisps. And at the fourth, a giant packet of chocolate biscuits. But at the fifth house, there lived a man called Mr. Bones, and Mr. Bones didn't like children. He certainly didn't see why he should have to give them any treats. Buzz off, you stupid kids, he said when they knocked on the door. Trick or treat, cried the girls. Yes, well, I think I'll take the trick if it's all the same to you, said Mr. Bones, and a horrible smile creased up his face. Because you're just a bunch of stupid little girls and you don't scare me. But one of us is a real witch, said Amelia, the biggest of the girls. Yes, yes, Katie's a real witch, they all cried. But Mr. Bones just laughed and laughed. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, he said. Go on, Katie, said Amelia. Let's see if you really are a witch. And so Katie stepped forwards. You don't look scary to me, said Mr. Bones. You're just a stupid little girl. But Katie remembered what her mom had whispered in her ear. Do you know what it was? A special spell. So right then, Katie recited the magic words, and she wriggled her ear, and all the girls gasped in amazement, because suddenly Mr. Bones wasn't Mr. Bones anymore. He was a little brown, fluffy hamster inside a cage, running around and around on a wheel. All the girls laughed and laughed. Katie leaned into the cage. Is it fun being a hamster? The little creature squeaked and shook its head, and Katie spun the wheel so that he had to run faster and faster. And then she recited the magic words, and Mr. Bones was turned back into a man again. I'll get you some treats, girls, he said very quickly and nervously. And he came back with tons of chocolate bars, fizzy drinks, biscuits, and even a new Barbie DVD for each girl. Please come back next year, girls, he said. I'll have even better stuff for you. And he went back inside looking very nervous. And as they went down to the rest of the street, everyone had heard that there was a real witch out trick-or-treating tonight, so they all gave the girls even more sweets and biscuits than usual, and even some toys. And Katie was the most popular girl in her class. You know, maybe it's not so bad being a witch after all, she said when she got home, and I think I'm going to enjoy Halloween from now on.
So now it's the time for the sharing of joys, concerns, and milestones. An image of a witch, and that, of course, is the Wicked Witch of the West, right? She's green, she's mean, and she's got them awful monkeys that were very, very scary to me as I was a kid. So when I was a kid, witches were always a very frightening thing. I had a friend down the street. One day she introduced me to the idea of, or the concept of a seance. So we were in her garage and we didn't have a Ouija board or anything, but we lit a candle and then she did some hocus pocus kind of stuff and I went along with it. And we were trying to contact a spirit called Witchy Boo. And The next day, she told me at school that Witchy Boo came into her room at night and stood by her bed and did this. And I did not want Witchy Boo to come into my bedroom at all. And I was just terrified. I would lay there at night for the first few nights after she told me this and just was scared deep down. All the media images that we had of witches, at least in my early days, were women who were ugly inside out. And my husband and I went to Salem 2 years ago, and we learned more about the women who lost their lives during that terrible time. And I remember one of them was a woman who did nothing but be argumentative. She didn't really kowtow to the patriarchy, so she became one of the victims. At some point in my life, and I don't remember when, but it was probably in college, I was introduced to the idea that witches were men and women exercising their belief in a religion called Wicca, and that Wiccans were good people. They were pagans, yes. They were tied to the land and to the seasons and to the natural elements around us. We're fortunate to have a Wiccan in our congregation, and she will no doubt bring valuable insights into the issues of the world from her unique perspective. So please welcome Sue Drake as she gives her first and hopefully many more reflections. Do you need this? Okay, so let me turn it back to here so that we're ready to go.
Got it. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sue Drake, and I am a witch. And what I mean by that is that I have been practicing the craft of Wicca for almost 40 years now. I was calculating it up, and it's been 39 years now. So my journey, I was raised Christian. I was raised in a Methodist household, went to church every Sunday. I mean, we were always there. My parents were always part of every church, group that they could be part of. And I went to Sunday school and church camp, and there were many beautiful things about Christianity, but there were many things that personally didn't sit well with me. It didn't personally sit well with me that I felt that in Christianity, you needed to kneel before and cower before a God to ask for favors. And it didn't sit well with me that I personally felt that Christianity was very patriarchal and that women were seen as tools to be used by men rather than powerful beings in their own right. So I knew that I had beliefs, and I went searching. So I searched and did research on Islam and Judaism and Hinduism and Sikhism and so many more religions. And as I would look into these faiths, I would say, well, that's beautiful, but I don't really like that. And that's beautiful, but I don't really like that. And so one day I was in college and I was talking to my friend Marcia, and we were talking about beliefs and my journey, and she said, it sounds like what you believe in is Wicca. And I said, what's that? So I started to look and research, and as I read and as I talked to people, everything that I was reading was yes, 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 yes. There were no buts. And what I have learned in my journey is that most Wiccans don't convert to the craft, don't convert to Wicca. They find Wicca and realize that there was a name for what they believed in all along. So what is Wicca? So Wicca is ancient. It is an ancient earth-based religion. It predates Christianity. Wicca is not satanic. Satanism is a Christian construct. There is nothing in Wicca that has anything to do with Satanism. Wicca believes in a god and a goddess, but they have many faces and many forms. Wicca comes from the Old English word witch, and the witches were the ones who practiced the old ways. The witches were the ones who would go and get an herb or take some bark off a tree and fix your headache. Wicca is a pagan religion, and pagan actually comes from the old world word hill dweller or country dweller. And those, when Christianity was becoming popular and springing up in the cities, the pagans or the hill dwellers were the ones that were still practicing the old ways and worshiping the old gods. So that's where pagan comes from. They kept to the old ways. They worshiped the cycles of life. They worshiped the cycles of the earth. So Wicca believes in 4 powers. Wicca believes in the power to know, the power to dare, the power to will, and the power to keep silent. So the power to know is the power to strive for knowledge, to apply that knowledge as it's gained, to seek the truth, no matter how difficult the search may be or how difficult the revelations may be. And this power is associated with the element of air. The power to dare is the power to question everything. Everything, even truths that you hold very dear. It's the power to be courageous. And this power is associated with fire. The power to will is the power to focus your thoughts, clear your mind of anything that can distract you and make things happen. And the power to keep silent, this is the one that I struggle with the most, is the power to know when to speak and when not to speak. It is the power to share your knowledge, to know when to silence yourself so that you can hear your inner voice, to listen without judgment, not only to yourself, but to those around you. And this power is associated with the power of the earth. The Wiccans also believe in something called the Wiccan Rede. And the Wiccan Rede states, "An ye harm none, do as you will." So if you ever hear about a wicked witch, that's not a Wiccan. Wiccans are not going to hurt anyone or anything. It's very similar to the Golden Rule or the 10 Commandments. This is our commandment. One of the most important symbols of Wicca is the pentagram. And the pentagram, I'm wearing one, stands for the earth, air, water, and fire, and the spirit. The east stands for the earth and the power to know. The south stands for the element of fire and the power to dare. The west is the power of water and the power to will. And the north is the power of the earth and the power to keep silent. And then the 5th point represents the spirit or yourself. So if you ever see a pentagram point up, that is what you are looking at, is those beliefs. So the god and the goddess of Wicca have many different faces and are considered equal. Their strengths are sought at different times of the year. The goddess is associated with the moon and more typically associated with the winter months. And the god is associated with the sun and more typically associated with the summer months. So some examples of gods or goddesses that you might look to. Bridget is the triple goddess of healing. She is the god of poetry, alchemical forces, and fire. She comes from the Celtic tradition, and she is the goddess of light. Hecate is the goddess of witches and magic. Aphrodite is a goddess that deals with love and romantic things. Saradwin might be a goddess of change, rebirth, transformation. Her cauldron symbolizes knowledge and wisdom. The god also could be represented by the horned god, the sun god, Pan or Cronus, and these are just very few of the gods or goddesses that we might invoke. God Pan is the god of wild and spontaneity and shepherds. Cronus is the Celtic lord of the forest, speed, strength, virility. Freya is a Norse god of kingship, fertility, peace, prosperity, the weather, and good harvest. And the goddess is often seen in her triple form, which is the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And each of those have strengths and wisdom that they can share. So Wicca also has 8 main Sabbats. There are 4 major and 4 minor, and they follow the seasons and life cycles. And the one that we are coming up to is Samhain. It is never pronounced Samhain. It is Samhain. It is the witch's new year, and it is celebrated on the 31st of October. It is the time of year when the spirit world and the physical world are closest together. It is a festival of darkness and death, and I think Susan said earlier, or somebody, no, it was Buffy, said it was the time of going into darkness and peace in the season. So we're descending into that time of peacefulness. It's a time to plant seeds for ideas that will eventually germinate and grow and sprout. So next we have Yule, and Yule is the winter solstice. It's considered a minor Sabbath. It's a turning point in the year, and it is the shortest day of the year, longest night. Light is starting to return, bringing hope and promise of renewal. It's a time of deep, deep peace and a time to start again. And it's a time to start thinking about the year that has gone past and what you want the future year to look like. The next one is Imbolc, and Imbolc is on February 2nd. It's a major Sabbath, and it's a festival of light. Diana, or Bridget, the Celtic goddess of light, would be a really good goddess to invoke at this ritual. A time for new beginnings, and seeds are starting to send down those roots. They haven't busted out of the ground yet, but life is starting. The next one is Ostara, and that is the spring equinox, the minor Sabbath. It's held on March 21st, and it's a time of powerful energetic release. Nature is starting with new growth. It's a time to embrace potential. And then we have Beltane. Beltane is a major Sabbath, and it's held on May 1st. You might have heard of May Day. It's a time of development and learning, and the past bonfires were lit and thought to bring fertility to crops and homes and livestock. And when we talk in the Wiccan tradition of fertility and birth, it's not always of a person or an animal. It can be fertility of an issue or birth of an idea that you want or a concept. The next one is Letha, which is the summer solstice, and this is the longest day of the year, and it's a time of intense active energy, powerful magic, a time of abundance, power, and strength. This one, you might evoke one of the gods because they are, the strength and the energy and the power, whereas the goddess is more introspection and peace. The next one is Lugnasa, which is held on August 1st, and it gets its name from Lugh, the Celtic god of green, craftsmanship, and the sun. And it's a time there are 3 harvest festivals in the Wiccan tradition. This is the first one, and it is a time of the first harvest. So if you think about your garden, this is the time when those tomatoes are finally getting ripe, and the fruit on your tree is finally getting where you can pick it and eat it. It is a time to be grateful for things that have been created, and it's a time to stop and take stock, spiritually, emotionally, or physically. And then the last Sabbath of the year is Mabon. And that was the one that happens on the fall equinox. And it was the first one when Greg learned that I was witch, because I wished him a blessed Mabon, and he's like, what? So it's a time for gathering. It's the second harvest. It's a time to take responsibility for our actions, and it is a time of abundance. So those are the 8 main Sabbaths in the Wiccan tradition. So Wiccan rituals are usually done by doing what's called casting a circle. So it is to cast a circle, you call the quarters. You go to each of the 4 quarters and you ask for their strength and protection. You ritualistically, symbolically draw a circle to keep out negative energy, and then you complete your practice or ritual inside the circle. And when that's done, you dismiss the circle and the quarters and you thank them for their help and guidance. So the big thing that most people ask about is magic and spells. Can I cast magic and spells? No, I can't turn you into a newt. I'm sorry. But magic and spells are the Wiccans' equivalent of prayer. It is how a witch directs their energy and will to ask for something to happen. This may be asking the universe for help to complete a task, or asking the universe or goddess for help to protect you from negative energies that may be coming your way. There are tools that Wiccans use. They might use what's called an athami, and an athami is a ritual knife that's never used for violence. It is used to direct the will. You might use a broom. I don't ride it. I really wish I could. But you might use a broom to sweep away negativity. The tarot or runes are divination tools, and you also might use a wand to direct energy. There are limitless ways to cast spells or perform magic. One simple way, if you want to try something at home, take a bottle with a lid. If you wanted to draw negative energy away from your home, make your home a peaceful, positive place, put nasty things in it, broken glass, rusty nails, and take that far away from your home itself to like a far corner of your property. Cast a quick circle and say a blessing and ask the powers that be to draw the energy away from your home and into the bottle, bury it, and then you have a little bit of protection. So easy way to cast a spell. So when you do magic, keep 2 things in mind. One is the read, harm none. So you're not going to ask for your boss to, get violently ill so you don't have to come to work. You want to ask for positive things. You also need to keep in mind what Wiccans believe in, which is the trifold law. So the trifold law is the law that says that energy that you send out into the world is going to come back to you 3 times as great as what you send out. So imagine dropping a pebble into a pond. It's going to ripple out with little waves, and those waves are going to hit a tree or a rock or the shore, and they're going to ripple waves back to you. So you send out one wave, all sorts of things are going to wave back at you. So if you send out negative energy, that negative stuff's coming back to you. If you send out positive energy, that positive energy is going to come back to you. All right. So most Wiccans have an altar in their home. Usually if you go into a Wiccan home, it's not going to be like big and on display. It's not part of the decor. It is a way to honor the gods and the goddess and the season. That altar is usually decorated to coincide with the Sabbath or maybe a spell or magic they're trying to do. And it will have representations of the 4 elements. So it might have a bell to represent air, some water, some dirt, sand, or maybe rocks to represent earth. And it would have a candle to represent fire. And these candles usually are colored. So say you are not feeling well and need some healing, you might light a blue candle, which represents healing magic. So how does Wicca and Unitarian Universalism go together for me? When I first found Unitarian Universalism and learned of those 8 principles and all centering in love, I kept saying to myself, yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I believe that too. There were no buts with Unitarian Universalism, just as with Wicca. And I very much appreciate that Unitarian Universalism allows me to be Wiccan and Unitarian at the same time. I especially like the crossover in symbolism. I love that you guys use fire. I love that you guys use water and stones, and you guys use the element of air. It just feels like home for me to be here with those traditions being shared. So I really feel that Unitarianism and Wicca really coincide and harmonize well together. So that, my friends, is a very, very, very brief description of Wicca. There is so much more to it. I strongly encourage you to ask questions. You're more than welcome to ask me, read books, learn more. There are 2 metaphysical stores in town. I don't know if you knew that. But there's Indigo Mystic and Ashra's Garden. I am not affiliated with either one. I'm just giving them a shout out. But they're great resources. Indigo Mystic often holds classes or gatherings, so you can learn more, or I think this weekend they're having Make Your Own Magical Wand. So I'll leave you with a story. And my story is how my mother found out I was a witch. My Methodist mother, keep in mind. So after I had found Wicca and realized, oh my goodness, this is who I am. My mother was in college at the same time I was in college, and she was in a women's studies class, and she calls me up, and she's like, Susan, that's what she called me. She said, Susan, I need to write a paper. What should I write my paper on for this women's studies class? And I gave her a whole bunch of different topics, and she didn't like any one of them. So she says to me, I'm going to write it on witchcraft. The only thing that's left of witchcraft in this world is crystal balls and palm reading. And I said, oh, Mom, are you sitting down? So I told her who to talk to, and I told her what to read and where to look. And then I didn't hear from my mother for a month, which was weird, because that woman called me every day. So a month went by, and she calls me up, and she says, you have a very beautiful religion. She said, it wouldn't work for me, but it is very beautiful. So marry meet, and marry part, and marry meet again. Blessed be.
Wow, that was awesome. I had a difficult time picking out a UU principle for this because it seemed to reflect them all. So here in the kids' language, and I've included the 8th principle, are all the principles just as a reminder. The first principle, we believe that each and every person is important. Second principle, we believe that all people should be treated fairly and kindly. Third principle, we believe that we should accept one another and keep on learning together. Fourth principle, we believe that each person must be free to search for what is true and right in life. Fifth principle, we believe that all persons should have a vote about the things that concern them. Everyone is equal. Sixth principle, we believe in working for a peaceful, fair, and free world. Seventh principle, we believe in caring for our planet Earth, the home we share with all living things. And the 8th principle, which I don't know if it's been accepted yet, but here it is, we must work together for diversity and against racism and oppression. So now we turn to hymn number 298 in your gray hymnal, Wake Now My Senses.
Break now my senses, and hear the earth call.
We're almost to noon, so let's rein it in. So now we pass our offertory basket. All donations are gratefully welcomed. If you make automatic pledge payments, please place one of the yellow cards indicating this support in the basket. If you want your contribution to count towards your annual pledge, please put it in an envelope and write your name on the envelope so that we know who to credit to. Eric Walker Wickstrom. If you are who you were, and if the person next to you is who he or she was, if none of us has changed since the day we came in here, we have failed. The purpose of this community, of any church, temple, zendo, mosque, is to help its people grow. We do this through encounters with the unknown in ourselves and in one another, the other, whoever that might be for us, however hard that might be, because these encounters have many gifts to offer. So may you go forth from here this morning, not who you were, but who you could be. So may we all. Please join me in reading the words provided for extinguishing our chalice, and we'll bring Bob back up here. From this ground, let us sow mercy, justice, and compassion. Now is the time for announcements. Does anyone have any announcements? I know we have announcements with some tickets involved. We have the chili cook-off. Do you want to talk about the chili cook-off? No. Do you want to talk about the chili cook-off? Yeah, come on, Anna. I have bought 20 tickets, folks. Majority rules. So unless you buy more, I'm going to be determining the winner.
You are allowed to vote for your own chili. Yeah. Okay, yes, it's the chili cook-off. Thank you. Yes, very exciting. So just some reminders and guidelines. So feel free to eat all the chili you want. It's just like a potluck Sunday, so help yourself eat anything you want. We do have some eco-friendly bowls, so you are welcome to grab a clean bowl, just in the interest of hygiene and prevention of spreading disease. We don't really want your used bowl touching the ladle, so you're welcome to do that. We also have little paper cups, so that if you just want to taste some chili, so that you can try them all. There are 10 chilies, so you might want to try 10 chilies. The tickets are for voting, and this is part of our fundraiser. So the tickets are $1 each. You can buy as many tickets as you'd like and vote for your favorite chilies. Voting is unlimited, so if you really like a chili, you could vote for it 20 times. And you're welcome to vote for your own chili. We encourage voting often. So you don't have to buy anything to eat today, but for the voting, they are $1 each. Last year, we sold $142 worth. So yeah, so my goal this year is to try to exceed that and to sell more than 142 tickets today, and I think we could do it. Any questions? We'll do about, after maybe 45 minutes, I'll announce a last call for voting, and then we'll take the tickets and count those up, and then announce the winner. And what we'll do is the winner who gets the most votes for their chili gets a cash prize of half of what we brought in, and then the other half goes to MVUUC. So, okay? Yes, Laura.
Good-looking stuff in the
This is true, yeah. So some of the toppings are next to the crock pots. We do have a side table with some more like snacks, sides, toppings, dessert, so don't miss that. And I think we're all set. Okay. Well, I'll be at the greeting table if you want to buy tickets.
Hi, everybody. My announcement is, I don't know if you all know this, but we recently purchased I don't even know the proper word for it, clicker for the projector to make the slideshows go. So if we have a presenter up here and he has slides or she has slides, they have slides, they can do it from up here instead of having to like do this or next or whatever. But unfortunately, it's gone missing. And, you know, we hope somebody just maybe accidentally moved it or put it in their pocket by accident. So if you're thinking back and you remember something happening to it, if you could let us know, we'd appreciate it. And keep an eye out for it. It's small and black and, you know, shiny. Thanks.
Hello. I don't want to influence how you vote for the chili cook-off, but here's a tip. You might want to exit through those doors and then just take a look at the chilies kind of down that end. You might find them especially satisfying. Just a thought. Just a thought. Chili cook-off, and then after that, we're thinking like 1:30 is the start of our spooktacular, our celebration of Halloween magic. Ooh, spooky stuff. So grab some chili, enjoy the chili, then come join us at 1:30. I think we're going to be, Noel, we're going to be over in the RE area since all the chili gobblers are going to be in the social hall. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. Mention of fall and leaves has already been made several times today, so I wanted to direct everyone's radar to bringing their leaves here. So if you need to dispose of the leaves that you have collected from your yards, I would like to have them. So in the newsletter, there's a little announcement that if you want to bag your leaves and bring them here for the MVUUC garden, I'm going to be using those as mulch. So just collect your leaves into whatever kind of bag, trash bag is fine, paper bag is fine, and just drop it into the garden, inside the garden fence. And on November 16th, that's a Saturday, November 16th at 10 a.m. Is the last day that we'll be taking leaves because that's the day that we will winterize the garden. So we're going to pull all the plants, we're going to lay down the leaf mulch, and we're going to cover it up and put it to bed for winter. So if you would like to help on Saturday, November 16th with winterizing the garden, please let me know. And details are in the newsletter. Thank you.
Very good. So I should ask, are there any announcements on Zoom? No, there's not. Okay. So after the closing song, we invite everybody to stay in person for coffee, the chili competition, and the magic show. And now for our closing song, go with a Song in Your Heart, which is on the inside of the gray hymnal.